Study session starts at 5:35. Dr. Taroshi, please.
Well, I am delighted to say that we have from DSK Architects some renderings based upon our conversation with them from 2 weeks ago, and they have honored that timeline, saying that it would be 2 weeks before they were able to get something, and this is really 2 weeks on the nose. Connie, did you want to add anything before we turn it over to Larry or the team?
No, so you guys started, the session looks great.
Well, why don't you walk us through the design then?
All right. Is everybody looking at the front sheet, which is the west end?
Much larger than what I figured out at home, so it's better.
Basically, both sheets kind of have the same theme going on. You know, we've added a walk, you know, that we had talked about, access from the corner, all right? And the thought here is to take more drought-tolerant plant material and working with colors and textures and shapes, and work some patterns through the area, all right? These plants are really subject to approval. All they are is a placeholder right now, okay? So you could do anything you want, but that's kind of the concept. And then, actually on the second sheet, we show a little blow-up. You see all the little half-circle patterned planted areas? You see those along the new walkway, and then on this plan there's a little blow-up right here. And the thought there is to put these areas in so that if you end up with a monument that you want to put in place, that you have a place to put it. I mean, it could be a concrete-based monument, it could be a big boulder with a plaque on it. It could be any number of things. And you can put them anywhere, and I've shown, a half a dozen on the east end and probably 4 or 6 on the west end.
I see 4 on the west and 6 on the...
Yeah, there you go. But you could have them anywhere you want along this walkway.
So is that a pathway that is the half circle, or is it that plant that is...
The half circles are just planting. And then the little black square, that just represents a monument of some
Right.
sort.
And so the interior of that semicircle around the square would be that bluish purple plant festive.
It could be a combination of these plants. But like I said, these plants are just placeholders. I mean, it can be just about anything you like. All right.
Yeah, so we can put those plants in, and then, you know, where those plants are is where we would put a monument if we...
Yeah, exactly.
Put those plants out and put in concrete
I was gonna say,
or...
if those plants don't overgrow, how
Well, the thought is they
they
don't
stay
get like,
small,
yeah,
right? They
18
stay
inches.
small, yeah.
You know, kind of thing.
You weren't here 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, bust a bed.
And the drawings we had 2 weeks ago.
Well, that's why we were,
That's right.
We've already done the
I was just gonna let Kirk,
practice.
I was gonna let Kirk know, because Kirk wasn't here 2 weeks ago, and the drawings we had proposed 2 weeks ago were much more elaborate, with pathways all through it, and
They were
monuments
wrong.
and walkways, and Phil was here, and we asked him, and so we got his input, and that's why there's an arc of a pathway going through, and, you know, we were just of the consensus that simple is better, the least maintenance is better, not very complicated, so that's where we've arrived today.
I would agree. Thank you.
I know you said these plants are just suggestions or examples of what could be there. My experience with lantana is it just grows like crazy all over the place. Is that
It can.
an issue?
It can.
It's a
But, you know,
ground
we
cover.
place them
Yeah.
4 to 6 feet apart, let them do their thing, you know? All these plants are gonna kind of grow towards one another. But I think the sensitive part there is the spacing to begin with. So it's not like you were planting a model home and then have it being overgrown in 5 years, right? But if you don't like lantana, there's other options.
I'm just thinking the one in front of my house, that's all.
Yeah. Well, you probably
We have to hug back
Maybe a particular kind.
I think you're overwatering. Yeah. One other thing, on the east side, we're also showing expanded parking. You know, you're gonna pick up another half a dozen stalls or so, 6, 7 stalls, I think. if that makes sense.
The border around that parking, looks like that would be, that bush would grow quite large. Is that kind of creating a little hedge there?
The thought was to try to screen the
Nice.
cars, yeah,
Okay.
as a
And the chain link
backdrop to the
fence.
rest of the planting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the comment we received last time, is that we didn't want anything high, but if we needed to, it would be better to screen it against the wall so no one could hide behind it, instead of putting like this chain link fence.
Right.
It'd just be more natural. One other thing too, Scott, I don't think you mentioned, from the comments last time, we did add a tree on the west to provide shade, so
center.
that was the only tree that we added.
In the
Yeah,
center.
kind of in the center.
And what's along the sidewalk there on the west side?
All kinds of stuff.
Okay.
These
on the
over
east.
here.
Those existing trees?
Yeah.
Are those,
the
are they
trees?
the existing trees?
Yeah, those are
Okay,
the
okay.
campers that are the street trees,
Okay, perfect.
yeah.
And that tree you're talking about putting in the west lawn is,
That's a,
is it able to survive with, natural moisture we get? Or does it have to have water?
it's kind of
As it takes, yeah.
it's
Sure,
one of
you
those
have- you
deals
have to
where.
get it started.
Right.
Exactly, you have to
Exactly.
get it established,
Right.
okay? But if we're watering everything else around it, it'll also help it, okay? But yeah, any tree is gonna have to be be established.
Is the thought, once all of this is grown in, that there's still gonna need to be a watering system?
Sure,
And how often would we have
And-
to water something like this in the heat of the summer?
maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks.
Do we need, so we need to install irrigation system throughout?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the thought? I don't know if you've done the numbers on this at all. Again, once it's grown in, what do you estimate the water savings would be?
I'd have to do some math. I haven't done any takeoffs on this yet. Yeah.
The only question I have, or comment maybe, is where we have the infills for the monument areas. I don't know, I'm not a plant person at all, so I have no idea how big these things get.
18 inches.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, the stuff that would be right around a monument
Yeah.
itself. Yeah, we get about this tall.
Okay,
Yeah,
Well, you may have to take some out for the monument in.
yeah.
so
exactly.
the only thing that's really can grow big and wild is the
The agave.
the agave, because these,
We need that for a specific purpose.
Oh, yeah, the agaves, those can get pretty large, but you can see that they're
Can't have
they're
alcohol,
spaced
can we?
out in the middle of the area. All right,
right,
Can we
Yeah.
get blue agave?
Yeah, they can get big.
so, but that's the only one that's really gonna thought to be over 18 inches.
oh, well, some of these others will grow to maybe 30 out in the middle, okay? Like lantana, for instance, they can get a little taller. And then things like the needlegrass, the nacella, that'll get to this table height, okay? Yeah, that's 30 inches.
All right, so basically, everything is gonna be waist high or lower.
Exactly.
With the exception of the cactus.
Well, yes, the agave, and on the east side,
And the fence,
well, the fence,
the
yes.
fence plant.
The Muhlenbergia, up here in the upper left, I show that kind of like out in the middle as well, like the agave, all right?
The east side.
And that'll, when it flowers, it'll get about this tall.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a
This
little
tree's
pink
missing.
accent.
Is the, I mean, I don't necessarily need to be involved in all the minutia, of which plant goes where or whatever, but my only question about the agave is,
It should be here.
is it a stiff enough succulent where if someone were to fall in it or walk past it, they're gonna get cut or poked or injured, like a cactus?
Oh, it could hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we made the
But
other.
it's
Yeah.
kind of in the middle, right?
It's down in the middle,
nowhere near-
nobody's
near
walking by
pathways.
us.
Oh, they'll walk by it.
Yeah. They deserve to get poked.
Remember, it's the shortest distance from point A to the front door.
Yeah, I hear you.
They're not,
That's where you invoke the garden.
from wherever they are, they're not gonna follow the pathway.
Yeah.
That's how we ended up with that arc.
That's a good.
Plant one.
They're not
person
gonna
does it.
meander through there to get to the front door. But they're not gonna use that walkway all the time
Yeah.
either. I
But
promise you, they're
there's
not.
another plant that's not as lethal that we could use too.
That would be my one concern. I don't know, what do you think, Kirk?
Yeah, no, I mean, if there's and I really appreciate the diagonal pathways, because as we know, just watching kids currently,
Sure.
they take that diagonal out of the front door, they walk out there towards the corner across the street, and likewise on the other side. So there's already ingrained pathways in the grass, so that makes sense. And if there's that pathway and distinctive plantings around that kind of keep them on the path, they'll be less inclined to be in that area, especially if it's, once it gets all grown in, you're gonna, literally,
sure.
it looks like you're gonna have to kind of climb over it to get to the agave, so I don't, that's not a big concern of mine. You know, we are dealing with teenagers, and most of the time they make pretty good decisions. But I think center of that area, it's not like it's right along the path or a border.
Well, that's why we showed it that way.
Yeah.
So nobody could push their buddy into it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
off the sidewalk. Yeah.
Yes.
So these purple plants, are they purple year-round?
No, but you know, lantana flowers, probably 9 months out of the year, 10 months.
Let me ask you, what would be the flowering cycle of these? You got lantana.
You got spring and summer for the most part, right? And then trying to work against some of the textures and colors without having flowers. We've got the cotoneaster, it gets a little red berry on it, right? And then the Cordyline Festival that you see, you know, here, that's foliage color. You know, so we're playing off of greens and reds and, you know, that kind of stuff.
And there,
I'm sorry.
is there any, sorry, is there anything out with high allergies or poisonous or anything like that?
No,
Any
none
little
of this.
berries some kid's gonna pick up and stick in their mouth?
Yeah, they can eat all they want.
Okay,
But, you know, anything that flowers, you're still gonna get a bee or two,
yes.
all right? But,
Which one?
Are these things
oh,
gonna stain?
about a foot. Yeah, 15 inches.
Are the berries gonna stain when you have the inevitable fight,
Berry war.
berry war?
You know, that's a good question. Probably.
There will be a beer award.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible, sure. Yeah.
But I don't see any.
Because it goes along the sidewalks,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, I used to have a house that on the corner, we had an olive tree that, you know, stained the sidewalk every year.
Olive trees are awful,
You know?
the juniper, is it the juniper that has the purple flower that drops?
Jacaranda.
Jacaranda.
Jacaranda, that's it. I knew it was
Oh,
a-
yeah.
Yeah.
The jacaranda.
But it always
So
cleaned
beautiful
up.
when-
I don't know that it would stain
Absolutely.
permanently, the red berries. I can look into it.
If you can, that'd be great, because if it's gonna stain clothing permanently, sidewalks or what have you,
Yeah, okay.
Fronts of buildings.
because it seems to be along the walkways, so
Yeah.
the fights are,
I was just trying to give you
Guaranteed.
different color
No,
and
no,
textures throughout.
that's
the
fine,
season.
but you know,
know?
so I look at this and I'm thinking, oh, this stuff looks fantastic. You know, my only concerns are that secondary, if it's all in place the way it's supposed to be, you know, what could go sideways on this? You know, obviously if the berries are poisonous, that's a bad thing. You know, the next bad thing would be, when they get into a fight, are they like olives, which is somebody's gonna
Yeah.
get a
My
bruise.
point was that it might stain, but it all goes away
If it
eventually.
goes away in the wash, I'm good.
Yeah.
It looks great.
Yeah,
Yeah, this looks,
So how long does it take?
Good, you like it?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Thumbs up from my perspective. I think it looks very attractive. And we're keeping with both sides being the same theme and the same platform.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Yeah, the difference being you've got
Say, yes, we're
one
good.
beautiful oak tree on the east and
Right.
a smaller version.
And also what we
Works.
talked about, we
Yeah.
mentioned, and Larry's already exploring with the cities, the driveway
Yeah.
cutouts in the curbs.
Thank you,
Those
Larry.
should
Putting
be
them back.
replaced to normal curbs so that all bollards and all holders in the ground go away, all the driveway curbs go away, correct? All of that goes away.
That'd be nice.
No chains, no bollards, no locks, no
Yeah.
driveways.
Just red berries.
And we're still gonna have a chain link fence around the parking.
But
Yes.
Yes.
And then with the plant, with the shrubs and plants.
Right.
So they can lock the parking lot.
Okay, so our
I would
next
prefer
steps,
not to, but we need to fix the campus.
Oh, I understand, yeah.
so the next steps will be, if you're approving this, is they'll do the final artist rendering, which is what the contract is about. That'll be the color version of the layout. And then, once that's approved, then we start the process of going out to bid to get the work done.
When are we gonna get a cost of?
I can work on that.
Cost.
Okay.
Cost.
So when does that mean when?
When do you want it? Like before I leave, or? Yeah.
What do I want? Yeah, I do want it before you leave, but what we'll settle for.
I'll pull it together in a few days.
And we'll need that anyway to know what contract, which way to go with the bidding process.
Yeah, see if it fits your budget.
And has
We
a,
have to make sure it fits the budget.
Yeah.
and are we at a timeline, like an installation timeline discussion yet, or not?
I don't,
Is
we
there
haven't discussed it
any
yet.
of these plants that need to be planted at a particular time of year?
Not really. No, if it's 110 outside, yeah, just make sure you get water to them, you know? But
So back to Kurt's question about the installation timeline, as principal, good question to ask first.
yeah, gosh, I wouldn't think this would take more than a few weeks, a month, time-wise, to put it together, do it during the summer.
I was gonna say, is it something we should do during the summer when there's less
That would be my request.
pedestrian traffic?
Yeah,
If we can look at a summer installation timeline, that would be the best. That
Yeah.
way it's fewer distractions, fewer
Right.
things happening on the campus.
Although if we had it in before graduation, that might be nice too.
Yeah, but if, I agree, but if we're,
Would you
if,
take a little harder look at what that
before
is?
graduation,
Because
it's
if
AP
it's
testing,
like a
it's back
2-week
testing,
window, maybe we
you know.
can fit it in spring break.
it's 2 weeks is tough.
No.
Yeah.
There's nothing in it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
I didn't hear that, sorry.
I said maybe we could fit it in around
What's
spring
the
break.
cost
and
for,
it's only
is
like
it
2
130, is
weeks.
that the threshold?
But it's not.
But
It's
he
not.
said that would be tough to
Okay.
fit it all.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, time you irrigate it and prep and plant and.
But we still, this is not a construction set, this is
Right.
an artist
Right,
rendering.
right.
Yeah, so once
We
this is
still
all
have a ways
approved,
to go,
yeah, then we have to do the bid set of plans.
All right, why don't we do this in order, just so we don't go back and forth? Is everybody good with this general drawing and layout of what we have?
I'm good.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the general format is good, so that should hopefully give you some ability to do what your next phase is. So you're going to, and this shouldn't slow you down at all, because if I understand this correctly, your plants are interchangeable, right? For the most part. So if we could find out about the berries, so we can have that done. If we can find out about the water, because that actually is something of significance, that may, if we have significant water savings, there's no reason we can't go to the water district and see if we can get some grants or funds for that, but they're obviously gonna want some numbers. So if we can get that, that would be fantastic. And as you're drawing this, is the sooner you can give us actual timelines, and if there are times that we need to avoid the planning, that would be great for the planning of when we need to prepare to get things done.
Sure.
Like, if we're gonna do it during the summer and it's triple-digit heat, is that not the right time to do it? You know, need to know those kind of things. if we
Right,
do it
well, like I
like-
said,
Yeah.
it's when you plant stuff and it's that hot and you don't put water to it. Because you figure that plant's sitting in a nursery somewhere in that temperature, but it's getting watered. You know, so if we can put it in the ground and give it water, there's no difference. Right? And if we change plant materials, you know, like a 1 gallon is basically the same no matter what type of plant it is, for the most part. I mean, there's some plants that are really slow growing that you might have to pay a premium for, you know. But a 1 gallon, a 5 gallon, or whatever you know, if we change plants, it doesn't really impact the cost. So,
And low maintenance, these are all low maintenance in terms of care
I would say
for your team?
pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, that was your answer. Sorry, I
Well.
didn't mean to answer for you.
We think so. What do you think, Larry?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of ground cover, so ground cover is probably the hardest thing.
And
All
what-
mine's clear?
Do you just put DG down to keep the weeds down from in between everything else?
Well, that's a good question. Do you want DG or do you want mulch?
I mean, you have to put something down to
Yeah.
keep the weeds down.
Let's look at the
That-
budget, because DG is gonna cost you more than putting mulch down.
But weed pulling is also a maintenance issue.
Yeah, DG is a lot better for weed maintenance.
Weed
We can,
control,
we
right.
can, blow DG where we can't blow mulch.
Right,
Things
it
like
blows
that.
away.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
My preference is DG, but could we look at just a rough cost difference?
Sure, yeah, we'll look at a separate line
Mulch
item
and
and see what it, see what it takes.
Absolutely.
Any additional questions?
Great.
Cool beans.
We're good.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. You guys are fun.
Very fun. So fun.
So when would be the ideal time for them to start? Because obviously, the sooner after school.
Yeah, before the
But there's
start.
snacks out there, you're welcome to it.
Hopefully, the more we
Oh, we were
avoid
looking at those.
Yeah.
Later.
And that's the way they started school 125 years ago, ringing that bell, and we're going to start a meeting that
You know
way.
that from personal experience.
My recollection from almost that long ago is ringing the bells. Yeah, that was probably more like 65, but same thing.
And Mr. Gitterland thought he could ring the bell better because he's been up here longer. Just want to follow Chris's Rich's good humor. Good evening, everybody. And welcome to the Monrovia Unified School District. I am your board president, Terrence Williams, and on behalf of our entire district, it is a great pleasure to have you with us today to celebrate Monrovia's 125th anniversary. And we are excited to be a part of this significant milestone, of course. To begin our program, as usual, I'd like to ask our wonderful high school to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate Wiesner. I'm a senior at Monrovia High School, and I'm going to be leading you guys in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just want to take this opportunity. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kirk McGinnis. I'm the principal at Monrovia High School. And I invited Kate this evening to lead us in the pledge to start this very special board meeting this evening because she is indicative of the type of students that we have on our campus. We call ourselves Home to Scholars and Champions, and she is truly that. Kate not only as a senior has amassed a GPA of well over 4.0, but she's done so as a member of the United States women's national soccer team, and she played all last year and even years prior to that in the CONCACAF qualifying tournament, traveling all over the world, playing soccer at the highest competitive level that we've known in this town, and done so just in a beautiful fashion, balancing academics, balancing her role on our campus as a leader, and her role as a wonderful kid in her family as well. And it's an honor and privilege to introduce you, the community, to her this evening. And I asked her to say a few words about her experience at Monrovia High School and her goals and her plans for next year. So please welcome Kate Wiesner.
So like Mr. McGinnis said, I'm part of the U17 U.S. Women's National Team, which means that I'm one of the top youth players in the United States, and I've been able to travel all over the world and represent the United States competing internationally. But with that comes a lot of days outside of the classroom, and I think that being at Monrovia, the staff and all the teachers there have been 100% supportive of me in all of my athletic endeavors, and worked really hard to make sure that even when I'm missing all that school, they're giving me the best opportunity possible to be successful in the classroom as well. And I think that that's a common theme at Monrovia. I'm not the only kid that they're doing that for, whether someone's pursuing a sport like I am, or they're in band, or the arts, or whatever their passion is. Monrovia is supporting them in their pursuit of that, but also encouraging them to strive for excellence in every aspect of their life, inside of the classroom, at home, with their sport, with whatever they're passionate about. And I think that there's just a culture on campus that everyone is driven to succeed, and everyone feels like they're part of the Wildcat family. And as I continue my soccer career and education at Penn State University next fall, playing soccer there, I'm going to remember always the lessons I got from Monrovia High School, what they've taught me in regards to being a good student, but more importantly, what it means to have good character and be a good person as well. And I think Monrovia High is always going to have a special place in my heart.
We'd like to take a picture with this wonderful young lady here. Senator Fortino and Senator Holmes, would you mind taking a picture with us? Councilman Spicer? Mayor, we want to take a picture and celebrate this young lady. And then I'll introduce you in a minute.
I dare you to stand in the front.
And I'd like to take this opportunity now to officially acknowledge and recognize some special guests who joined us in this celebration today. And two of the gentlemen who you've already seen that took pictures with us, but we wanted to make an opportunity for our kiddos. State Senator Anthony Porter-Tino. He's along with his wonderful representative in the likes of Christy Lopez, who we're very fond of, Mr. Portino. State Assemblyman, Mr. Chris Holden. Mr. Holden's representative is Mr. Hector Rodriguez, and I can say the same about Hector. He's a wonderful person. And of course, our wonderful mayor, Mr. Tom Adams. 1973, Monrovia alumni, Councilman Larry Spicer. And a jewel in our city, who is the Vice President of the Trustees of the Citrus Community College, none other than Mrs. Joanne Montgomery. And to my right, Board Vice President, Mr. Ed Gilliland. Yeah, the official bell ringer. Thank you there, Mr. Wong. Mr. Hammond is away. And of course, board member Chris Rich to my right. And let me put some mustard on there. Emmy Award-winning board member Chris Rich. If you didn't know, Chris Rich is heavy in the Channel 2, the talk show. Chris, what do you do there, sir?
I'm a music producer and an audio supervisor.
Yep, and
there we go.
Because of that music producer and audio supervisor capacity, he won an Emmy. And so I think he's the only board member ever won an Emmy, so that's good. Now you see why we call him Emmy Award-winning board member Chris Rich. And of course, to my left, my mentor when I got here, and he still does all the time, Mr. Brian Wong. Of course, we have representatives from the office of Congressman Judy Chu and the likes of Miss Cindy Lee. And our awesome superintendent, Dr. Kathy Tarosian. And our assistant superintendent of business services, affectionately known as the Money Lady, Miss Connie Wu. And of course, our assistant superintendent of educational services, Dr. Sue Kaiser. Now, starting with our principals, the one and only. Did I miss Charles? Yes. Charles, I missed Charles. All right. Of course, this I fix him, call him the tech master. He takes up all our technology, and he's good at it. So please help me welcome Charles. And of course, Mr. Kirk McGinnis, up front. And Mr. Albert Clegg. Mr. Clegg, what a sight for sore eyes. And of course, our student board member, Annalisa Amaya. Let's see, some of the folks are not here. I'm going to transition to the podium here so we can receive our new member. Mr. Jared Cupp, will you please join me? Hey, Jared, I want you to raise your right hand. I want you to repeat after me. I, Jared Cupp, do solemnly swear
I, Jared Cupp, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that
I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will take this obligation freely
that I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations, sir.
And so I would like to thank my parents over there for coming here and supporting me at this time. I would also like to thank the Monrovia as board members for giving me this opportunity, and I'm excited to be here.
Congratulations. We're excited you're here. Now if you can join us on the dais. There's your new sign and your new seat. I tell you, you better go this way here. That's a lot faster.
That way?
Yeah, from experience. You know, I met Jared's dad earlier, and we were teasing, and Jared said, I just told him to show up and breathe. So breathe, Mr. Cupp. You know, I'd mentioned some introductions earlier with regards to who are here, and now I would like to make some presentations. But before I do such, I'd like to share my view of what's happening here this evening. I did write it down because I didn't want to screw up with the senator and the assemblyman here, and the mayor, and the city council, my fellow board members, new Mr. Cupp. But sincerely, I'd like to thank you sincerely for this wonderful evening. Our district is deeply committed to the success of all of our students and our schools. As the needs of our community shift with each generation, Monrovia Unified adapts to provide the best tools to ensure educational excellence throughout all levels. Monrovia High has consistently worked to provide 125 years of quality academic programs for its students, preparing them for graduation and the challenges that lie ahead. Monrovia provides students with rigorous programs to support academic success, including our Math and Science Academy, our Theater Arts Conservatory, our Humanities Academy, our Sports Medicine Pathway, our Digital Media Arts Academy, and of course our early college program in the likes of AB 288. As you glance through the room, you will see the strength of our Monrovia High community, by the number of people present, and also through the stories each person has to share about their Monrovia High experience, and we will have the opportunity to receive that. The success of Monrovia High is also credited to our high-quality educators and staff who enhance the education and lives of our students. One of those important people is our current leader at Monrovia High, and I mentioned it earlier. He's a wonderful individual in the likes of our principal, Mr. Kirk McGinnis, who puts every effort to ensure our students graduate with the skills and knowledge to take on the world. Now, with that said, I'd like to ask Mr. McGinnis to come up and say a few words, and I'll have some other people that follow him.
Thank you, President Williams. So you had a brief moment to meet Kate this evening, and as I shared in my opening, she's just one of the 1,580 examples of kids on our campus that are doing wonderful things. And it's not just the students in the midst that are amazing, it's the people that are around us, the staff on our campus, our teachers and our support staff, the administrative team, our community. Our community as a whole has truly embraced our school, and it's a wonderful opportunity to live here and to work here in this town. A quick Google search and looking on Wikipedia gave me a little bit of information, and I'm not going to bore you with a ton of history this evening or share a ton of history, but I want to kind of make a couple of connections. In education, the first day of school is probably the most exciting day of the year, along with the last day of school. But the first day of school comes with a lot of excitement, a lot of jitters, a lot of anxiety, a lot of anticipation. You know, you walk into a new building and you're excited to see your new teacher. You've got a new backpack and you've got new shoes, and you're going to meet new people. And with that, certainly is a little, like I said, a little bit of excitement, but a little bit of jitters. And I guess that 125 years ago in 1893, that the students that walked into the Monrovia High School, then it was Monrovia City School, had some of those same feelings. Time has changed a lot. Things are quite different, but those feelings and emotions are still the same, and those resonate all with us. In 1893, any guesses as to the population of Monrovia? I don't want to hear an answer, Mr. Chi. You probably know. Any guesses as the population of Monrovia?
5,200.
That's very high. 907, according to Wikipedia. I don't know how, I didn't fact check that. But 907 people in the town. Monrovia City School was established not on the site where we are now, but in 1893, a few years later, and serving the students in our community. In 1928, the building that we know now as Monrovia High School was completed, and we moved in. And for many years, it was that building served three different communities: Monrovia, Arcadia, and Duarte. And I'm seeing a lot of head nodding and a lot of people acknowledging the fact that for many years the school was commonly referred to as MAD. And in the 50s, the other communities started building and growing, and they peeled off and started their own schools. And so from about the early 1960s, Monrovia High School has been just that. It stood alone. It stood solo and continued to strive for excellence in our community. And it's a wonderful opportunity for me to be there to welcome back some alumni. We have many alumni in the house here this evening. In our town and in the world. And when they see Monrovia High School in the news, or when they stop by for their reunion, or they come by to buy a new t-shirt or something, the alumni walk into that hallway, and it hasn't changed. The building itself has not changed since when they stepped foot on that campus. So there's a lot of pride and excellence in our town and in our school. And I just want to leave you with a couple of things about the education that happens. We provide quality education for our students, and in both at our school and in our community. And our goal is to not only create scholars and champions, but to create graduates who are really prepared for life. that they're prepared to lead productive and inspiring lives in our community and impacting the future lives of hopefully more Monrovia High School graduates. So with that, it's a great honor and privilege to work at this school. I don't really call it work because it's a heck of a lot of fun. Some days are a little bit more busy than others, as anybody that's connected to education can understand. But to see the impact that our town and our school specifically has made in the lives of so many countless people for 125 years is pretty impressive. So with that, it's an honor and privilege. Thank you for helping us celebrate this evening. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And at this moment, I'd like to introduce Annalisa Amaya. She is our ASB president for this school year, to say a few words as well. Please welcome Annalisa.
Hello. In such gratitude, I am here tonight to celebrate the 125th anniversary of Monrovia High, the place that I have called home for over the past 4 years. It is an honor to represent the current student body of MHS as their ASB president. Monrovia High is a place where friendships, memories, and traditions are all passed down. It has meant a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Being able to grow up in such a warm and welcoming community has benefited me in so many ways as an individual. Throughout my time at Monrovia High School, many educators have impacted my life in ways I will hold in my heart forever. The encouragement I gained from all the students, staff, and even faculty have brought me to where I am now, as the president of the Associated Student Body. MHS prepares students to succeed in the 21st century and make a positive difference in their lives and the lives of others. This high school has given me a chance to grow tremendously and become prepared for the real world. I've learned important life leadership skills that I truly believe would have been much more difficult to learn anywhere else. Myself, as well as many others, could not be more grateful to have been a part of the first 125 years at Monrovia High School. Thank you all.
Before Mr. Kump joined the diocese, that was our representative right there. She is so bright. You know, it would behoove me not to acknowledge some additional folks that I see in the audience. Our city manager is here, Mr. Oliver Chi. And of course, the Monrovia Acadia Duarte Town Council is here, and the likes of Linda Seals and Joan Montgomery. Also, I'd like to recognize our PTSA president, Ms. Liv. Yes. If you didn't know, we have a lot of synergy in the city with our city, with Councilman Spicer and Mayor Adams. The school board and the council meets twice a year because we want to be on the same page as elective, because it's all about the betterment of the community. In addition, the town council also meet with us as well, thanks to the mayor, who've invited the town council to the parades, to the meetings, to make decisions on behalf of the stakeholders. We'd like to say this is a community, and a wonderful community at that. We are the Gem City of the foothills. Nobody can claim that but us, because it's the truth. I'd like to invite our electives to come up and say a few words, if they don't mind. Mr. Portantino, would you join us first, please?
This out of the way here. Mr. President and board and community members, it's really awesome to be here. And I have to say, as the father of a 16-year-old high school junior, to see Kate, Jared, and Annalisa just represent this school district so well, it was really kind of cool just as a dad to see that. So let's give them a big round of applause. And as a Penn State fan, that's cool that she's going to Penn State. I grew up in New Jersey, and of course, there are no big-time programs in New Jersey. Rutgers wasn't that good when I was a kid, so we rooted for Penn State. Anyway, so that's also cool. To give a little historical perspective, I'm glad Principal McGinnis talked about history, which is also important for us to know. 1893, July 22nd, the day that the bond passed, you probably already know this, but Catherine Lee Bates wrote America the Beautiful on July 22nd, 1893. Did you know that? Think about that. Do you know who the President of the United States was in 1893? It's actually a trick question, Ed.
Not off the top of my head.
There were two. Benjamin Harrison and Grover Cleveland were both President of the United States in 1893. Then we flash forward to 1929, the year the school was built on its current site, and Martin Luther King was born in 1929. Audrey Hepburn was born in 1929, and Anne Frank was born in 1929. So that was a pretty famous year. Obviously, the stock market crash as well, but we won't make that part of this. But it's great to be here as your state senator, and I know Assemblymember Holden and I are very proud to represent this wonderful community which values public education. And on behalf of the California State Senate, I wanted to present to you, Mr. President, a Senate resolution commemorating the 125th anniversary of the high school. I won't read it all except for the last part. Resolved by Senator Anthony Portantino that we draw special public attention to the Monrovia High School on the celebration of its 125th anniversary and point with great pride to the outstanding opportunities it has provided to many, many students over the years and extend best wishes for continued success of Monrovia High School. So congratulations and well done.
First duty, Mr. Coe.
We'll introduce you in a minute.
And Chris, you get to do this again.
Trying to memorize.
We cannot have glare. Break the glass. One more. I should have said Tom Adams was alive in 1893.
Now for my great friend, State Assemblyman, Mr. Chris Holden.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I thought the room had cleared out on me. Let me just say thank you to Board President, Mr. President Williams, to my Senator Portantino, to the board for all your great work and for your leadership in this community. It is a pleasure to be here with you. To Principal McGinnis, you lead a tremendous high school that is producing every day quality young people who are going to go out into the world and make a big difference. And so we're very proud of the good work that you're doing, and the parents of our young people who are being supported to reach their highest levels. Today we gather to commemorate Monrovia High School's 125th anniversary of service to the city of Monrovia. Throughout its history, MHS has played a vital role in the educational success of our students in our community, providing an educational foundation to all of our students. And one that is very notable, who is in 2011, is the former alumni, Nobel Prize winner in economics, Thomas Sargent. So not every high school can claim that they have a Nobel Prize winner. In 2015, I was pleased to author Assembly Bill 288, which has provided a vehicle for high school seniors to take college courses concurrent with their high school curriculum. I'm proud to point to Monrovia Unified and specifically to Monrovia High School as a model of success of implementation of dual enrollment. Monrovia High School has provided excellent co-curricular and extracurricular programs for its students for the past 125 years. The learning opportunities at MHS support and enhance students' efforts to be successful today and well into the future. I'd like to thank the Wildcat Alumni Association, faculty past, present, and future, and turn to the present class of Monrovia students who we had an opportunity to see here tonight to let them know how proud we are of them and their success. Go Wildcats. The Senate has more of a budget than the Assembly.
Next, we'll hear from a representative of the Congresswoman Judy Chu's office, Ms. Cindy Lee.
Good evening. On behalf of Congresswoman Judy Chu, I just want to congratulate Monrovia High School for the 125th anniversary celebration. And I do want to present a certificate, but before I do that, I also want everyone to give a round of applause to the parents, the students, the teachers, the principal, because without these individuals, without the staff, a school and the students would not be successful. So.
You know, I introduced Mayor Adams earlier, but Councilman Spicer is going to speak on his behalf. Here's walking down the aisle is 1973 graduate.
Okay, board member Williams, school board members, superintendent, and staff. First of all, we recognize the school board at our city council meeting, and you received a proclamation, but we still wanted to be able to give a certificate of recognition. And on behalf of the city of Monrovia, we would like to congratulate you, Monrovia Unified School District, on the 125th anniversary of Monrovia High School. The city of Monrovia commends your dedication to creating environment where the youth are continually challenged, fostered, and encouraged to reach their true potential. Your ability to motivate the next generation to set their sights higher is an inspiration to all in the community. Signed this date, September 26th, on behalf of Mayor Tom Adams. All right. We're working on our infrastructure.
There's one gentleman that I wanted to have some words since he's the only other principal here, and it would behoove me not to ask him to come and say something to us. Please, sir.
First of all, good evening, Board President Williams, Vice President Gilliland, Superintendent Thorsten, and Board. When Mr. Williams asked me to speak, I said, I didn't really prepare anything, but I do want to say that, Kurt, I understand your position more than anybody else in this room, and I think that I was very proud of your eloquence as you gave some history of Monrovia High School. I have the distinct pleasure of having been at Monrovia High School twice. In 1980, I accepted a job as a teacher at Monrovia High School, and later on in the 80s, I became the head football coach as well as the athletic director. Then I left Monrovia High School in 1990. I took a position over in a different district, a kind of a competitor of Monrovia High School. And then in 1999, I had the pleasure of returning as the principal at Monrovia High School. One of the other unique things that I will tell you is that I understand the history of Monrovia High School really well. My father-in-law, who just passed away this last year, was a 1940 graduate of MAD, Monrovia Arcadia Duarte. And so lots of proud history. My two children both graduated from Monrovia High School. One in 2002 and the other one in 2006. My wife and I have lived in Monrovia since 1980, and we still live in Monrovia. We used to live on the corner, the busiest corner in town, which was the corner of Foothill and Mountain. We lived there for 20 years. Then we moved just a mile away to the Lemon and Toronto, over a little quieter area. I will say this, is that I'm very proud of being a member of the faculty as well as a former principal of Monrovia High School. It's where my heart has always been, and I've always been a Wildcat. So thank you very much for inviting me to celebrate with you tonight.
I'd like to thank all of you for your tremendous support of our high school, and we are honored to have all of you here today. I mean, it is a true humbling experience to stand here in this capacity during this celebrated time. So I am truly blessed to be here on that half. On behalf of our entire district, again, I'd like to sincerely thank you. You had a lot of places to go tonight, but Ms. Montgomery, and thank you for your 32 years of being a teacher in our district. That's awesome to me. And for all you educators that are here, your principals, this is something to be excited about. Kurt, I'm happy that you are leading us in this effort and this time. And I appreciate you with my kiddos. and helping them get on task. So with that said, I'd like to take a recess here briefly.
I
for
have
about
a
10 minutes.
surprise for you, President Williams.
Okay.
Because it is a birthday celebration after all, and we thought we would surprise you and the principals with a cake. So if Principals McGinnis and Clegg would also join us up front.
Well, during our 10-minute recess, you can all take a look at the cake before a certain board member put his fingers in it. Mr. Gilliland. Before I recess, we do have some exchanges to make here. I turned 59 last week, so I'm dealing with glasses now. Thank God for the eyesight. I could be as blind as Larry Spicer, but you walked into that one. Okay, it says here, Monrovia Unified School District Board of Education wishes to recognize Mr. Albert Clegg for leading the Monrovia High School from 1999 to 2004 on the occasion of its 125th anniversary of founding. Kathy's got the Vanna White thing going here. In the same language refers to Mr. Kirk McGinnis. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we can recess. The cake is out front. Mr. Adams?
I know, right?
Our recess has concluded. It is now 7:59. Thank you for the bell, Mr. Gilliland. We need to keep that bell for the rest of the year. In representation and in honor of the 125th anniversary, so we will keep this bell. We'd like to continue with our order of business. Of course, the board agenda discussions, presentation items, which could include input from the representatives of agendized matters, may be moved upon the agenda. Dr. DeRosa, we have anyone to move up or down?
We do not, President Williams.
Thank you for that information. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Huff?
Board Member Rich?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Gilliland?
Yes.
Board President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, Ms. Huff. Communications, I omitted asking for board reports.
I just want to say thanks to the staff of the Canyon Early Learning Center. Went to their open house back to school night last week, and it was great. I love seeing what those littlest ones in our district are doing, and hearing the teachers talk with such great passion about the difference in learning between a 4-year-old and a 14-year-old. So staff did a great job that night. Thanks to them.
Any other reports? Mr. Cuff, we'll hear from you, our first student report. Have at it, sir.
So I'd like to start by saying it's good evening, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Taronison, cabinet, friends and family of the Monrovia community. As it is my pleasure to represent both Mountain Park School and Canyon Oaks High School for the 2018-2019 school year. I am pleased to report that we had our back to school night on Tuesday, September 11th at 6 p.m. We had several families and VIPs in attendance, including our board president, Terrence Williams, board member Ed Gilliland, and assistant superintendent as Dr. Sue Kaiser, and chief financial officer as Connie Wu. As representatives from the Monrovia Public Library were also in attendance, including the librarian of youth representatives, including the librarian of youth services, Anush Azbalayan. Ms. Balayan was awarded the LAA Great Stories Club Grant after much collaboration over the summer with our site administrators. The Great Stories Grant supports local schools and community organizations who serve at-risk and underserved youth through book discussions. We wish to welcome two teachers new to our school, Mr. Randy Medina, our football coach and health and PE teacher, and Mrs. Annette Freitas, our English teacher. With some new faces and a larger student body, we are really looking forward to what this year has in store for us. And that is all.
Excellent job, Mr. Cuff. Would you say so, Dad? Board member, Vice President, Mr. Gilliland and I had the opportunity to go to the back to school night for Canyon Oaks Mountain Park. I met this gentleman here, very humble, very articulate. I'm going to enjoy you the rest of the year and next year too, hopefully. But we truly enjoyed ourselves. Canyon Oaks Mountain Park is a favorite because of the rigor that they choose to embark on with our students. So it was a wonderful night. With that said, Dr. Taronison, you have a report for us, please?
I do. I had the privilege of attending the Moon and Stars family night last Friday evening at Plymouth Elementary School, and just like to commend Dr. Giroux and his band, which includes his son on the drums. And they certainly regaled the audience all evening. It was really a very special evening. And I wanted to commend the faculty, the staff, and the parents for all of their assistance in making this happen. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Taronison. We're at our public comments area. The Board of Education encourages public participation and invites you to share your views on business, school business that is. Ms. Huff, do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda?
Yes, Board President Williams, the first request to speak comes from Ann Battle.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ann Battle. I serve as president of the Monrovia Teachers Association, and this is now a paid political announcement. We are planning to have a candidates forum on October the 9th, 7 p.m. right here, so that you can meet your prospective candidates for the Board of Education. There will be 4 people that will show up, and you have a chance as part of the audience to ask them questions, and it will be moderated by the League of Women Voters from Pasadena. So we hope to see you all there.
Thank you. Ms. Huff, do we have any additional comments for items not on the agenda?
There are none.
We have comments, public comments for items on the agenda?
Yes, Board President Williams, the next request to speak comes from Susan Motander.
Thank you.
Bud York for speech, so I don't need to come down to the podium. He taught us all how to project from the diaphragm. But I wanted to comment on the possibility of naming the library after Frank Jansen. I can't tell you how wonderful I think this idea is. There were 3 things that Frank loved. He loved MHS, he loved his students, and he loved books. There was never a day when he was not reading a book. When I would go into his classroom after I'd graduated, he would always recommend another book. Have you read this yet? Have you read that yet? So naming the library is appropriate, but doubly important because the classroom he had had for many, many years was torn down to make way for that building. And he was one of the first teachers to move into that building when the classrooms in it opened up immediately after it was completed. It is a fantastic building, and it would be a fitting tribute to what was an extraordinary teacher and one that will still be missed. I know that I got an incredible education because of Frank. I was the only freshman at Occidental College who passed the English A exam, the only one. And I'm going up against students from Phillips Exeter, Andover, Emma Willard prep schools back east. These were kids that were Ivy League level kids, and I passed the English A exam. That's all due to Frank. So he was an incredible teacher and an incredible person. So I think this is a great idea, and I want to encourage you all to move on it tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Huff, any other public comments for items on the open session agenda?
There are none. Sure.
Can I just introduce myself? Okay, I'm Rahia Ewell, and I wanted to talk about naming the library after Mr. Frank Jansen. My mom was a student of Mr. Jansen's in the 1970s, and I was a student of, my uncles were students of Mr. Jansen also. I was a student of Mr. Jansen in the 1990s, and so was my brother, and so was my sister. And as a result of my education, which sort of is embodied by Mr. Jansen, Mr. Miller is here too today, who really influenced my intellectual life, as well as Mr. Ballard, Mr. Coquero, and so many others, Mr. Connett. They're all misters, because that's what life was like in the 90s at Monrovia High School. But I wanted to say that, like the previous speaker, my sister went to a more prestigious private school than I did. She went to the Johns Hopkins University they think they're the East, but they're really the South. And she was a freshman, and she was called out of her English class and accused of malfeasance. She was accused of lying, and they said, there's no way you can be a freshman in this class. She's like, no, I swear, I'm a freshman. And they're like, how old are you? And she was a young freshman, she was 17. And they said, well, where did you go to school? And she was like, Monrovia High School. Well, where's Monrovia? And she was like, it's a little hamlet town. And the foothills of Southern California. And they're like, no, like what boarding school was that? Is there like a boarding school for excellent black young women somewhere we don't know about in the world? And she was like, no, it's like a public school. And they were shocked and dismayed, frankly, that her writing was at such an extraordinary level. I only share her story because her school is super, super prestigious. Mine, not quite so much. I went to a small private liberal arts college, and my brother too, but all of us had similar experiences with our professors being shocked at our writing and thinking ability, which really came as embodied by the work of Mr. Jansen, but also supported by so many others. So to name anything after him is in the hearts of those of us who had Mr. Jansen, and even in the hearts of those who were not fortunate enough to be in his classroom, I think is just a testament to the spirit of Monrovia High School. So thank you.
Any other last minute comments? I think I saved Ms. up the time for asking her question, sincerely. Well, thank you. Next is our consent agenda that has 9 routine items of business placed on the consent agenda have been carefully screened by members of the staff and will be acted upon by the board with one motion. Motion's on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Huff.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Gilliland?
Yes.
Board Member Rich?
Yes.
Board President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Next, we move to our action items. Board business, Dr. Terosian. And before Dr. Terosian says anything, I'd like to have my 2 cents regarding Mr. Frank Jansen. History dictates how he affected the faculty and staff and the school and, quite frankly, the entire community. Like no person that I've ever heard in the Monrovia Unified School District. From my observation, his legacy still lives on through our educators in the Monrovia Unified School District. He was a human being of extraordinary sensitivity and feelings. He cared for his students. I've heard so many stories about his famous cheat sheet that he made for all his students. Frank's favorite inquiry, and I've read this and I was told by several students, are you good? Why do you think you're good at what you do? And I've heard 7 students brought that to my attention. I thought it was worth repeating. I also understand that they had a 3 as a teacher rating, which is incredible. All of you know that Frank passed October the 25th, 2003 at the age of 70, and he spent 45 years in our school district. It would be fitting on such an anniversary as tonight to celebrate an individual like that. That's why the board has dictated the effort to do such. With that said, Dr. Terosian, would you please move forward?
Thank you, President Williams, members of the board. At our last meeting, there was a request by the board for us to investigate the feasibility of naming the Monrovia High School Library after Frank Jansen. Mr. Jansen had been an instructor at Monrovia High School beginning in 1958. He left in 1995 and yet returned on a part-time basis in 1997 through 2003, 3. Ms. Ewell, I think, alluded to the fact that those fortunate enough to have had him as a teacher will remember him and continue to remember him long after he's gone. Since posting the agenda, we've received emails from individuals, students who were Frank's students almost 40 years ago. David Rickabaugh from Seattle, Washington, as well as Rhonda Knuckles-Budge from Houston, Texas, encouraging the board to take action today to name the library after somebody I was not fortunate enough to meet, but about whom we are hearing so much. Again, at the request of the board, as part of our investigation exploration about the
viability of naming the library after Mr. Jansen, I asked Principal McGinnis to inquire, because again, I was not fortunate enough, and I'm going to ask Mr. McGinnis to share with us some of the results of his inquiries, and he's got with him 2 instructors today from Monrovia High School who will share some of their thoughts. We have Randy Bell and Eric Miller. So I'll turn it over to Mr. McGinnis.
Thank you very much for the opportunity again this evening to recognize and celebrate all things Monrovia High School. What a night tonight. At the request of the board, I initiated a communication to the staff, just connecting with everybody. Hey, this is the conversation that's happening. Share with me some information. I have heard his name from the day I set foot on this campus. Didn't have the pleasure of meeting him or having his wisdom as an instructor, but every single person that connected with me, either in person or via email, had nothing but positives to say about Frank. And I printed 2 emails that I want to just share bits from this evening, just so you can kind of connect. And one of them is from Ann Battle. And she writes briefly about Frank. Says, Frank's students never forgot him. He was the kindly professor who brought them intellectual stimuli on a daily basis. He asked thought-provoking questions and made students use their brains. We would have legions of students return annually to see him and thank him for all the educational experiences he provided them with, and had helped him achieve their successes. He, along with other faculty members, became an urban legend, and many Monrovians remember him quite fondly. If we were to name buildings after anyone, he would be an excellent choice, especially the library, as it was his second home. Another one comes from Bill Moore. He's our choir teacher at school and a Monrovia High School graduate from 1983. And he says, hi, everyone. I have to say Frank Jansen was and still is my greatest teacher. I had him for 3 years for English, including AP English. I swear the man had a crystal ball. He read us so easily. He always knew how to entice us to do more. I will never forget the night of the AP exam. Frank mailed out individual pictures of each of us on a postcard so that they would arrive the night before the exam. He had taken a picture of us individually without our knowing, made postcards, and then wrote a personal note, and then timed the mail so that they would arrive on the eve of the exam. I'm just going to let that sink in. That's like in 1982, right? Probably 83. Nowadays, that seems rather easy. You can snap a picture and get it to somebody in a moment, but that takes time and effort and care and love. Incredible inspiration. So on behalf of the staff at Monrovia High School, I'd like to invite 2 colleagues of mine who also have a great connection to Frank, and Randy Bell and Eric Miller. So Randy, would you come share some words as well?
Good evening to you all. I don't know for sure. I might have the unique perspective of having been Frank's student as well as his colleague. And I don't know what your inclination is on this proposition, and I don't know, I'm unconvinced about the familiarity that you have, most of you, with Frank. He's been gone 15 years. So I'm just going to lay it out there for you. Frank Jansen was a nutcracker of human beings. And I mean that, well, he was an acquired taste for some people. He had a reputation here and there to be a little bit irreverent. But I mean that in the most reverent way possible, if you can understand that. And I would relate that comment, that metaphor, which he would probably scoff at if he were here. I would relate it to his value as a teacher. What I remember being a student in his classes, and I had a lot of experiences with Frank, a trip to Europe after high school. He, for many, many years, took many students to Europe for 3 weeks at a time. But he was our scariest teacher we had. He was our hardest teacher we had. It was a paper a week. Go around school districts now and talk to English teachers and ask them if they assign a paper a week. That was why it was hard. The reason he was scary was because nobody in class escaped him. Nobody. If there were 34 kids, and this is my experience and my observation of Frank Jansen. If there were 34 kids in period 2 with Frank Jansen, by the time the year was over, and maybe half the year, every single kid he would have connected with, touched, called out in some way, and this is where my metaphor comes in. If we were just a bunch of cashews and almonds and walnuts and pecans, Frank was the magical mechanism that knew how to call us out, to crack us open. I needed it as a high schooler. I was a shy, young, athletic, smart kid, and boy, did he just dig his claws into me. And I am forever grateful for it. There are a lot of things I'm grateful for. I diagrammed sentences in his class until I was blue in the face, and that doesn't happen anymore in the school world, but I'm so glad that he put me through that, and that's a small one. But that's a tribute to Frank the teacher. If, as teachers, what we do more than anything else, and more importantly than anything else, is bring kids out, this is the golden one of all time at Monrovia High School. Thank you.
That was good, Randy. Yeah. I'm wearing Frank's shirt tonight. When Mary Ann Campbell and Grace Yoshimoto and I had to break into his home, we had to take care of things. And his brother said, you just go in and you look at his things and take what you want. And I saw this shirt that he bought in Italy, Rome, when we were there, and another jacket, and those are things that I cherish. And this is one of them. And I had a kid once, after Frank's memorial service, I wore this to school, and one of my kids said to me, Mr. Miller, that is the ugliest shirt I've ever seen. And I said to the kid, this shirt is worth more than everything in your closet. And he said, what? Well, how much is it? I whispered it to him. He said, yeah, it's worth more than everything in my closet. That was Frank. I traveled with him, and there isn't a day that goes by at that school where I don't think about Frank Jansen. I kind of wonder why this didn't happen 15 years ago, right after his death. I started teaching in 1985, 34 years ago, and I was 23, and I was scared, and I was given a bus tour through Monrovia. Mm-hmm. I think they still do that, right?
Yep.
But when I drove through, I was a Temple City graduate, and I was from Temple City, and I never heard of Monrovia. It's a next-door neighbor, and nobody came here to Monrovia. And I'm taking a bus tour down Myrtle Avenue where every other window is boarded up, adult bookstores, and I just thought, what the hell am I getting into? And I was scared. I thought, I'm scared of this city. We've come a long way. But at that time, there was someone at the school who adopted me. He became my unofficial mentor. He created a flyer in the first couple of weeks. It was Eric Miller's day at the Sawmill. I don't know if you guys remember the Sawmill, Arcadia. And it was a Friday, sawmill event, and it was for me, and he sent out flyers and he did everything. And that was the beginning of a relationship. He cared. He cared about me, and he cared about me like he cared about all of his students. There was always that special connection. That was the beginning of something that would continue until his death. And for those next 20 years, I had a best friend. Frank was my best friend. Robin Hart Sika told a very funny thing in her letter, and she said that she and Frank didn't have a great relationship because one day during the AP class, she was reading a magazine in class, and Frank went up to her and said, "What are you reading?" And it was a book on prom dresses. And he stood over and he said, "Why are you looking at prom dresses? No one's ever going to ask you to the prom." And I thought, whoa. But then I thought, you know what? I am like Frank. I would have said the same thing. I've become Frank. I was going to read you the Billy Moore letter, but Kirk already read it, because I thought it was especially poignant at what he did. I mean, he went so far beyond. He made such connections with students. This person here, Randy Bell, we went to our regular Friday meeting place at 4 Points, and we're meeting with this young man who wants to become a teacher, and I was department chair at the time. And we had worked together for a while, about a semester, and pretty much at that table, we thought, we need to hire this one. So at that evening in our discussion, we thought Randy Bell would be good for Monrovia High School. So that was a good night. I traveled with Frank to Rome twice, Paris once. He said that he was going to show me his Rome and his Paris, and he had also taken groups of students there for 30 years. So every summer he traveled with students through Europe, and he showed them his Europe. And I also got to see his Europe. When he died, he was still teaching at Monrovia High School. It was in October, and he had not been feeling well. And those of us who were very close knew that something was not right. And then it wasn't. But when he died, Grace Yoshimoto and I planned his memorial service in the high school auditorium. And that auditorium was packed. It was full. There were so many people who wanted to speak that she and I had to say, no, I don't think this is going to work. We have too many people who want to speak. We had a former student who sang "To Sir with Love." That was a wonderful performance. The event was covered on KJAM, and you spoke, didn't you?
I sang.
You sang, but not "To Sir with Love."
I sang "To Sir with
No.
Love."
You did too?
No, I sang "Stay Gold."
Thank you. It was not, yeah, you sang "Stay Gold." And then Laura Ware sang "To Sir with Love." Anyway, that evening was amazing. Yeah. I'll never forget it. So it was a memorable event, and we learned that night how many students were affected by Frank in this city and wherever he went. I think that this library, and actually I don't want to call it a library because it's not really a library anymore. There's no librarian. There's no books being given out. It's a media center. I want the days to come back where it is a library, where there is a librarian, and then there are people there's a person who is actually checking out books and promoting books, because I'm not seeing it. And I think that Frank would hate this, that place can't be called a library. It is a media center. It has computers, and there are books there, and very few are checked out. And there are very few that are added to the collection because who read books anymore? So I'm thrilled that I will walk through that entrance someday and see the Frank Jansen Memorial Media Center, maybe library. I think that's what he would want too. Thank you.
Thank you. With all that said, I'll do entertain a motion.
It's
Are
my
either
honor
comments?
to
Forgive me.
move. What? You won't entertain a motion now?
Forgive me, I should have said if anybody wanted any comments, but I would like to be expeditious and say I'd like to entertain a motion.
Then it would be my honor to move that we name the library at Monrovia High School the Frank Jansen Library.
I'll second that.
Ms. Huff, may I have the vote?
Board Member Gilliland?
Yes.
Board Member Wong?
Yes.
Board Member Rich?
Yes.
Board President Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you for all the kind words. With that said, Dr. Drosen, we still have pending board issues.
Only that we are progressing through our series.
Just one comment on that, Dr. Throsian. We have the community theater program. The next steps say update them to the board annually in January, and I think we've agreed to have an update long before that. So could we change this, or are we going to wait all the way till January to do that?
We could provide the board with a report prior to then. We had hoped to wait until January so that we complete a full season for the community theater, and that would include whatever we have through December and allow us in January to get along with, it would align better with our seasons by doing this annually in January. However, if the board wanted a presentation prior to then, it would simply be up until that point and not include the final production of the year.
I think based on where we're at today, that getting an update and starting a discussion ahead of that January date would be productive. If we want to start with just an overview, that would be fantastic. But I think January might be a little long.
Yeah, I agree.
Noted and received by Dr. Tolosi.
Whatever the president and yourself decide for timing, if we could just get that on there next time. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other comments regarding our pending board issues? Well, nothing said, I'd move to the old business, which includes our regular Board of Education meetings scheduled for October the 10th, October 24th, and November 14th. Our new business includes Read Across America, which is October the 4th. Prayerfully, you have already seen Ms. Joanne Springs to get your reading on. And of course, Professional Development Day at all sites will be October the 12th. Great California Shakeout is October 18th. And our Red Ribbon Week will be October 23rd to the 31st. Our meeting is adjourned at 8:34. Mr. Gilliland, can I hear the bell?
everybody.